Room 508. Rain tapped softly against the apartment balcony as Yuna sat cross-legged on the floor beside her unfinished painting. 2:08 a.m. Right on time. Footsteps echoed through the hallway outside, slow, tired. Then came the familiar sound of keys against the door next to hers. Apartment 508. Yuna smiled faintly without realizing it. The neighbor had finally come home. She had lived in the building for almost 4 months now, yet she had never properly seen him. Only fragments. A dark coat disappearing around the hallway corner. A tired silhouette inside the elevator at 3 a.m. The smell of coffee drifting beneath his door. But somehow, he had quietly become part of her routine. Every night, like clockwork, like loneliness with a schedule. Yuna stood and stretched slowly before walking toward her tiny balcony. Rain covered Tokyo in silver reflections far below the apartment buildings. The city looked beautiful after midnight, distant, quiet, safe. As she stepped outside holding her mug of tea, she noticed movement beside her. Apartment 508's balcony light flickered on. For a second, she froze. A tall figure stepped outside holding a cigarette between his fingers. Dark hair slightly messy, oversized black sweater. He still hadn't noticed her. Yuna stared silently through the rain. So this was him. The mysterious neighbor from 508. He leaned against the balcony railing and exhaled smoke into the cold night air. Tired. That was the first word that came to her mind. Not dangerous. Not cold. Just tired. Then suddenly he glanced sideways. Their eyes met. Yuna nearly dropped her tea. For one awkward second, neither of them moved. Then he gave a small nod. Sorry. His voice was quiet, as if he wasn't used to speaking at that hour. Yuna blinked. For what? The smoke. Oh. Rain slid softly across the balcony railings between them. It's okay. The silence afterward felt strangely comfortable. Not empty, just quiet. Eventually, he looked toward the city again. So, you're the artist? Yuna frowned slightly. How do you know that? I've seen the paintings you leave drying near your window. Her face immediately warmed. That's embarrassing. They're good. The compliment came naturally. Honestly. Yuna looked down into her tea to hide her smile. Thanks. After that night, things slowly changed. Not dramatically, just quietly. Sometimes they crossed paths in the hallway after midnight. Sometimes inside the elevator. Sometimes beside the vending machines outside the building while rain covered the streets around them. Their conversations stayed small. You work late? You paint every night? You should sleep more. So should you. Tiny conversations. Tiny moments. Yet somehow Yuna started waiting for them. One rainy night, Yuna returned home to find a canned coffee sitting outside her apartment door. She stopped immediately, confused. Attached to it was a small, sticky note. You looked tired yesterday. No name, no signature. But she smiled anyway. The next night, she left a tiny sketch beside apartment 508's door in return. A quick pencil drawing of the Tokyo skyline in the rain. The following morning, it was gone. In its place, the perspectives slightly off. Still beautiful, though. Yuna laughed quietly alone in the hallway. Days passed like that. Coffee, sketches, sticky notes, midnight conversations. Without realizing it, apartment 508 no longer felt like just another door in the building. It started feeling important. One night, the rain became heavy enough to shake softly against the windows. Yuna sat on the hallway floor outside her apartment after returning from a failed gallery interview downtown. Beside her rested untouched convenience store ramen slowly getting cold. She stared blankly at the floor. Then came familiar footsteps. Apartment 508. The neighbor stopped when he saw her sitting there. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he crouched slightly beside her. Bad night? Yuna laughed weakly. That obvious? He glanced toward the ramen beside her. You forgot to eat. She looked away. I didn't get accepted. The hallway fell quiet, except for distant rain outside the building. Finally, he spoke softly. The gallery? She nodded once. I think my paintings just aren't good enough. He stared at her silently for a moment before reaching into his pocket. Then he handed her a folded piece of paper. Confused, Yuna opened it carefully. Inside was one of her old sketches. The skyline drawing she left outside his door weeks ago. Except now there was writing beneath it. The perspective was never the important part. Yuna's chest tightened unexpectedly. She looked up slowly. Why did you keep this? He shrugged lightly. It made the apartment feel less empty. For a second, neither looked away. And suddenly the narrow hallway between their doors felt incredibly small. Later that night, they stood together on their balconies while rain drifted softly through the Tokyo air. The city lights glowed beneath them endlessly, beautiful and lonely all at once. Yuna held the warm coffee he had made for her while apartment 508's balcony light cast soft shadows across the rain. You know, she said quietly. I still don't know your name. A faint smile appeared on his face. Akira? Yuna. He repeated it softly, like he wanted to remember how it sounded. The rain became heavier around them. Cold droplets brushed against Yuna's bare skin as wind moved through the narrow space between their balconies. For weeks they had existed beside each other like strangers sharing the same loneliness. But now the distance between them no longer felt safe enough to keep. Akira stepped closer first, slowly, carefully, as if he was afraid the moment would disappear if he moved too fast. Yuna could feel the warmth of him despite the cold rain. Her heartbeat suddenly felt loud. Neither of them spoke anymore. They didn't need to. Akira's fingers brushed gently against hers, resting near the balcony railing. Warm. Real. Yuna looked up at him quietly beneath the pale balcony light. Then, without thinking anymore, she leaned forward first. The kiss was soft, rain-cooled and hesitant at the edges. Yet, the moment his hand moved carefully against her waist, something inside her relaxed completely. Like she had been lonely for much longer than she realized. The rain soaked slowly through Akira's sweater as Yuna rested against him beneath the midnight skyline. And somewhere beyond the glowing Tokyo buildings, apartment 508 no longer felt quiet anymore.